Okay, I think we've got everyone here. Yes, I'm not the development team waiting for anybody else. Are you guys on here?
Yeah, I think we're all here. I know Ian is called in online.
Yes, we've got.
Yes, I did.
We're gonna do a quick introduction, so we just know who's here between online and in person. And then we'll go ahead. So, because we've got actually 2 items on the DAP today. So you guys are the first item, and so we want to stay on track. And so I think we'll just have everyone who's in person go around and introduce themselves just in the order that we are. And then online, we can just have the development team members, and then the planning department, and then the DAP. So happy to have everyone here this morning. I'm Atara Marglaze. I'm the planning department staff, who's the coordinator for the DAP and a master planner in the department. So go to my left and go around the table.
Hi, I'm Jenny Lanou, architect with Gresham Smith and part of the applicant team.
I'm Gus Ballman with law firm of Beveridge and Diamond with the applicant team.
I'm Brandon Bell with Gresham Smith, architect on the project as well.
And I'm Trey Culpepper with GBT Realty, owner of Ellsworth Place, and happy to be back with everyone today.
I'm Paul Mortensen, senior urban designer in the director's office here at Planning.
I'm Alice Enns. I'm an architect and urban designer with Urban Design Associates, but I am a DAP member and a resident of Silver Spring.
What part?
I'm sorry?
Which part of Silver Spring?
Really close to downtown. So I'm right behind Whole Foods, like a block.
Behind the Whole Foods.
I'm next to Dale and Green. I'm on Greenbrier.
You're on Greenbrier?
Yes.
Okay.
Are
Good.
you a resident?
I live in the Woodside area of Silver Spring.
Right.
Yeah. So I can throw a baseball from my house and maybe hit yours.
There's lots of that happening in our backyard.
I'm David Cronrath, former dean of the School of Architecture, Planning and Preservation at University of Maryland. I'm an architect, and I'll tell you something I didn't say before. I'm also a board member of the Terrapin Development Company, one of the first public-private development companies of a state-supported institution at the University of Maryland. We've done over $1 billion worth of development in College Park.
Let's move to the online folks. Can we have any members of the development team online introduce themselves?
Yeah, Ian Duke here with FICA. We are the land entitlement engineer and landscape.
I'm John Sloan with the team.
Oh, okay, great. And then I think, how about the DAP members online? Bill, you want to go?
DAP member, Bill Bonstra, a 40-year architect. Go Terps, David. I wish I could be there with you. That's great news. I know it meant to some things for the School of Architecture because I heard the news the other night from Dean Jordan. And I'm sorry I'm not there. I just trying to do too many things.
No worries. Xiao Joy.
I'll probably just get
Hi, this is Chow Joy. I'm the landscape architect, DAP member, and I currently work in the city of Alexandria.
And Praj, I think you're there too, right?
Yeah. Are you guys not able to see my video?
We are not. Nope.
Yes. Something's going on. I mean, it says on, but I guess you can't see me. So I'm here. Praj Kasperkar, Senior Development Manager, Enterprise Community Development. Is that what we're saying? I'm sorry, I missed the earlier part of introduction.
You're good.
Okay. Yep, great.
And then any planning and park staff, can you guys introduce yourselves? Or I can call on you if that's easier. Atul, go first.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Atul Sharma, Assistant to the Deputy Director of Planning. I assist Down County with the design review of developments. Good to see everyone.
Stephanie?
Stephanie Dickel, regulatory supervisor for Down County.
Henry?
I'm Henry Coppola. I'm our parks long range planning supervisor.
Christina?
I'm Christina Sasaki, and I'm a park planner for the Silver Spring sector plan.
And Dan?
Good morning, Dan Bruckert. I'm a cultural resource planner with the county.
And I think that's everybody. Okay. So with that, gonna let the applicant, I think if you want to show on this screen, you have to sit over there next time.
Oh,
Unless.
I'm on the meeting.
Is Ian, oh, if you're in the meeting, you can do it. Great, then you can share. Perfect. I didn't realize you were also in the meeting. That works out. Just make sure your sound stays off or it gets crazy.
Yes.
Awesome. Then we're good.
All right, well, thanks again for meeting with us. I know this is our third time to speak with you all about this project, and there's quite a few slides that are obviously repeats from before where we don't necessarily have changes to discuss, so we can, you know, go through those quickly and then get to the revisions from the last time that we met with you. Again, just aerial project site location in downtown Silver Spring. Site plan showing that 2-block radius with the updated tower footprint. Reminder about the previous entitlements, the office tower on top, outlined here in the red, and the dots are the structure that extends above roof. Text is on the right-hand side of the page, and this blue line shows the kind of limits of disturbance between the two. So that's a clarification we made on these in this set. And same sheet from before, kind of showing what was previously explored for the office tower. This overlays the new footprint for the revised massing. Again, on top of the structure, you can see how we're interacting and using as much of the existing structure as possible for the tower. And this is a new exhibit that I know was requested from the last meeting, which essentially takes a section through the proposed residential tower entry, lobby, and corridor back to the elevators. So that's this white area here. The red shows the column spacing that does extend above the roof. And we've identified the tenants that exist in these spaces. I know that there are restrictions with regards to agreements with the tenants about what work can be done within the space. And so our tower massing scheme really relies heavily on using the existing structure that's there and what is available for the capacity of that structure. There is a column that's towards the front of the building, which we believe will be able to support some additional skinning as we get into how we're bringing that tower mass down to the ground. But again, that one does not extend above the structure. One thing that we did engage a structural engineer in this last phase to try to make sure that we understood what we were showing with regards to this extended mass in the cantilever that we'll explore in just a minute was possible. And what we do know from him is, based on what we're showing, there is a limited amount of cantilever that is possible without having to get into the existing structure of the building. But obviously there's further study to be done there as the design progresses. So this shows, similar to the previous submissions, the allowable height just based on the full boundary of the building, showing the 300-foot allowable, the prescribed kind of recommended step backs, and then where our proposed massing lands. We have maintained the L shape of the tower, squared off the corners, gotten rid of the rounded edges that I know we discussed last time, and have made a stronger gesture at the entrance to the residential tower by bringing out that leg, basically a kind of rectangular volume, extending that up and having it kind of wrap over the L form of the residential tower. On the ground plane, it looks very similar to before. This dash line you can see is the revised tower footprint above. But the street level experience is very similar to what we discussed last time, with emphasizing that residential entry through some sort of skin expression on the outside. You'll see as we move up that we're making a small gesture towards that subtractive corner with just having the building reach out over as you start to experience the volume of that tower as you kind of move into Ellsworth Place at the corner there. So this is the first level of the residential tower, and it's programmatically very similar to last time. A lot of resident amenity space and then adjacent outdoor amenities to activate both the Colesville Road and Fenton Street sides. We're also at the amenity area, pulling that facade back from the tower mass above to create this kind of subtractive acknowledgement of how the existing building is meeting the new tower. We're considering this kind of our typical tower footprint. The one thing that's not typical about the tower is that this side that faces Colesville Road and has essentially a 0 step back at the ground plane slopes back as the tower rises. So this face slowly kind of peels its way back from the street, but this is essentially the L shape of the tower. We get up towards the top of the tower, we actually have this expression extending above the L shape of the tower. This is still a purely residential floor. There are some green roof outdoor spaces, and that starts to separate this volume from the L shape. And once you get to the very top of the tower, this is now purely an amenity floor. We've relocated the pool from kind of the back alley side of the form up towards Colesville Road. So now you have much more activation from an outdoor standpoint along the public side of the building. This is just kind of quantifying what those step backs are. Again, we're 0 at the mass as it hits the ground, and that slopes back gradually all the way up to the 25th floor. We are the step back at the first level of the residential tower, hits the building roof, the existing building roof, and then the level above that is where it kind of reveals itself over that subtractive corner. And updated diagrams similar to what you've seen before. Again, just showing how, based on just kind of maximizing that footprint, where we start to peel away and reveal, start to acknowledge the prescribed step backs of 15 feet, but then also what we've heard previously is that there may be some room, just given the existing conditions, to play with what that looks like. And that's where this sloped face comes in. It kind of gradually works its way back. And then we have these larger step backs up here at the top to really help emphasize this vertical gesture that's grounding the tower, and also to provide some rooftop space for adjacent residential units. The revised mass in context. And then again, that overlay with the allowable heights. And these are just that kind of sketched mass overlaid with the existing conditions. And so these are not necessarily scientifically like everything is, the angles are exactly right, but we, just trying to show how we're bringing down that mass, emphasizing that entry, and what the tower looks like in context. So this is looking northeast from Colesville Road. Another view of that main entrance. Along Fenton Street. So again, you start to see that inside corner of the L shape. And this is at the intersection of Fenton Street and Ellsworth Drive. So on the kind of the back side of our tower. Some diagrammatic sections that start to show that relationship to the street, to the subtractive corner. And then this section cuts through that residential lobby and it shows kind of how we're peeking out beyond that subtractive corner in that facade of Ellsworth, of the Ellsworth entry. A lot of this precedent imagery you've seen before. On our form now with the piece that kind of starts to wrap the top, starts to create this kind of lantern effect and this cap on the building that wasn't necessarily as expressive before. And very, very similar patterns, fenestration, and again, things we'll continue to explore as the design progresses. Also, as part of this package, we've included some landscaping concepts from VICA. So these just look at what the pool deck might look like at that top level. Again, adjacent to interior amenity space, but giving you great sun exposure for the pool itself, views south to DC. And again, that place for residents to relax. At the roof level, the existing Ellsworth Place roof level, and you can see patios that are adjacent to units, outdoor amenity space that supports the indoor amenity space and kind of helps to activate these edges. And this corner along Colesville and where it meets the alley, all of that would have outdoor occupied space as well. Down at the street level, this starts to identify some maybe paving changes, paving treatments, and identifying some of the trees and sidewalk areas to remain. And then this, I think this may be slightly out of order, but this is the level just below the top amenity level that shows a lot of that green roof and patio spaces adjacent to units. So that's the package in its entirety. I think, you know, our focus was really on grounding that corner of the tower, cleaning up the mass in a way that felt, you know, less bulky. I think what we heard before was that it was kind of competing a bit with the bulkiness of the base. And that's where, you know, making that separation between, like it's here. Making the separation, the recess, that break between the roof, the existing roof level, and the story that's above that roof level, having that reveal, and having people inhabit that space as well. Make it a space that's occupied both inside and outside, and to help kind of create that separation and acknowledge the difference between these two, but have them work together. So,
Get a perspective view looking from the north, from the street. Can you show that one? That one?
This one.
Yeah.
Yes, yep. I'd have my DAP members first, but reactions to this versus the last presentation.
I'd be happy to go first. So I applaud you for your efforts to respond to our previous comments, and so thank you very much for that. My only point would be, as you continue to develop the design, anything that you can do to make the north-south bar be more dominant to the east-west appendage, the stronger I think the design would be. And so I think you've made great strides from the last time. In fact, when I reviewed the package earlier this week, I was like, well, what did they do? And then I saw the revised this morning. So I want to commend you for that, but I also want to emphasize that, to my way of thinking and what we've been trying to communicate to you these various times, is the north-south bar should be more dominant, which makes the east-west part of the L, an appendage and less dominant. So as you continue to develop the design, I think there's more you can do by manipulating parapet heights, by looking at reveals between the two masses. Anything as you continue to develop will strengthen that. The only other comment I make, while I appreciate and I think it's appropriate that you put some activity on the Colesville side, just above the mass that's currently there, if you can find ways to continue the continuity between, again, the north-south bar and that mass that you're creating, the stronger it's going to be. So if that notch reads too strongly, then it disrupts that strength of that north-south bar in my mind. But thank you very much for your efforts and your response.
I can go ahead. All right, I want to echo some of David's comments. I think that you all did a great job responding to our concerns. Thank you for the section and just showing and understanding like how this building is working. It's very complicated. And I think that helped answer some of our questions from last time. And I think you have pulled made that emphasis on the entrance, which I think was really important. I think the sort of primary and secondary bars, that's an excellent comment. And what I really like, and you can see it here, is sort of the thinning up of pieces that create this verticality. And so thinking about how that can be used in other places, it still feels very chunky. So as you get to the next layer of design and articulation, how to use some of that sort of lightness and thinness in other places on the building, I think will be really important so that there's an architectural language that goes around the whole building and is reflected in parts and pieces. I think the lantern, the top of this building will be incredibly important because, this height is a new height for Silver Spring. So how we can really emphasize that moment and celebrate it when you're looking from the metro, this is going to be such a prominent moment for downtown Silver Spring. When you enter from the metro, you'll see it right there. So from this side, you start to see nice articulation from the lantern. But when you look at it on the other side and the other view, that's maybe the next page, I think thinking about what's happening here, what's happening on the roof, how that piece, you were talking about it sort of glowing and then that you can see it in some of the examples. I think those will be great precedents to really refer to as we're thinking about what's happening there. My only other comment, and I'd like to hear from other members of the DAP on this one, is when I saw the plan and the cantilevered bar of residential over our wonky corner, that I was very skeptical because it is when you're standing under that and you look up and see a massive 300-foot tower above your head as you're entering the mall, how will that feel? I think that your view that we were just looking at does a good job of, because you are recessing the level below it, I feel more comfortable here because it's separating it from the ground floor. So while I was nervous when I saw the plan progression, when you see it in the view, I feel a lot better about it. But I'd be interested to see and hear from the rest of the DAP members what their thoughts are. And then also just would be interested to hear from this team, are there plans to do anything about that corner on the ground level? Does the mall have any plans for the ground level? I mean, I know that would be a separate sort of thing, but it's a very challenging piece of downtown Silver Spring. But I think you resolved it well, ultimately, and you can tell from this view. So
I concur.
Okay. Can I go next? Bill Bonstra here. Yeah, thank you for, you've done a lot of work since last time. This is your third time here. I think you're getting closer, but I do have some remaining concerns. I enjoy what David says about the primary bar north-south, taking a dominance over the east-west bay, especially if it's going to cantilever, that should be lighter. you probably don't want to show it the same way in form as you do the the bay bar over the entry. I'm concerned that our north-south cantilevering adds another aspect to this composition, which I'm not sure is satisfying your needs. I'd like that to go down sort of into the building. I'd like that to be the solid mass that supports all the appendages of this building, and make that entry projection. Well, I'd like to make it straight, a plumb, not angled, but maybe you could talk a little bit about the columns. It looks like you can put new columns behind that first row of columns at the building entry, at the residential entry. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. We're not able to add additional columns that will support load above the roof of the existing mall. So we can support any fenestration that's on the mall itself, but on that corner, we can't. That's kind of why we had the cantilever sloping back, working with the structural engineer. That was the kind of responding to the comments from DAP and also satisfying the structural kind of hardships of the building.
So you really couldn't on one floor have a lateral transfer truss that picks that up and transfers it to the existing columns?
It's quite challenging with the structure that's already in the building. We were challenged, and we had to work extensively with the engineer to try to figure out an option just to create this mass, to be honest with you, Bill.
Right. And does that corner need to project over the entry the way you have it, or could you put another appendage, so to speak, that runs north-south along the left side of that bar to give you more floor area, but back from the curve?
I don't know if we could go any further towards Colesville. Is that what you're saying? Appendage towards Colesville?
No, appendage back to the left. Bring that corner. I'm a little troubled by that mass floating 100%. There's nothing that ties it
Yeah, the
into
void.
anything.
Yeah, David mentioned the void at what we call level 5, right? Right above.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what you're speaking? Okay.
Well, you have that overhang there.
Yeah.
That's not the void I was referring to.
Okay.
I was referring to the void along Colesville.
The one.
Oh, that, okay.
Yes.
Under
Right here.
above the entry,
Right, okay.
where the slope comes down, that recess is the one I was.
Yeah.
I don't mind having an outdoor space there. I just think in terms of the way in which you develop the skin, you can get continuities there by punching holes into that rather than putting windows that allow. I mean, that's an architectural opportunity.
Right. So, Bill, can you clarify then the corner you're speaking of? Just.
I mean, the primary corner projecting over and floating to me is a bit profane. It would seem like that corner should stay tucked into the orthogonal building, and then you could have an appendage like what you put over the entry door running north-south, but not from Colesville side, from on the right side of that face. You see what I'm saying? If you need more floor area, you run another floating bar down to give you more floor area, pull that corner back.
You extend it towards Fenton.
Yeah, there you go. And then have half of your residential bar continue without cantilevering over the void. I think it's mildly troublesome to come in there with a building. All that building does is float, except at the alley. The only place it joins the ground really then is at the alley where the core is.
I would be worried. Alice mentioned the thinness of the building as you're standing at the northwest corner looking south. if we widen that, it becomes more obtrusive, I think, in my opinion. You know, I know we are extending over that unique corner, but I think the uniqueness of that cantilever and the way we treat the bottom of that soffit could be an interest that is just part of that interesting corner, if you will. I mean, you know, we don't know the commitment of the signage right now.
Sure, sure. Yeah, my only point is you're not grounding the building except along the alley.
The
And
only,
can you make some wing walls that ground it on the entry side that don't weigh a lot? Can you join that without cantilevering that appendage?
Bill, are you talking about Colesville Road?
The Colesville residential entrance.
We
Or
really
or could
can't.
that come
see-
up one floor higher and at least make a connection back and be plumb down to the ground? I mean, I don't want to design your building for you. Just, again, I feel like everything's hanging up in the air still. And I
The
think
one point that I don't think shows here terribly cleanly, especially in the model, and this is Ian at VICA, is that the building is essentially on the right-of-way line. So we really don't have the ability to put anything structural in the right-of-way.
Is closing up that void that David is speaking of, would that respond to your concern, Bill, on Colesville? There you go. That's the best view. You can zoom in on that thing. It is hovering. I mean, does there need to be anchoring on level, we'll call it level 6, right there where the cursor is?
well, it's sort of contradictory. I like David's comment about that in glass and hanging it. So I was suggesting that the main bar not have a void underneath it and not cantilever and be pulled back. But I'm not sure. These are big moves. And could you connect it? Yes. Could you bring the entry along Colesville one floor higher or 2 floors higher? I think that would help. I think that would help ground that piece in some way. Because it's still floating above, it's a building floating above a shopping mall. You haven't accomplished the connection in my opinion. That's all I'll say.
I think Bill and I are saying the same thing. It's just how you go about doing it. You can either go about doing it by raising the void one floor up. You can do it by finding ways to enclose that void while still keeping it open and lively. I mean, I think there are many options there, but as I understand Bill's comment, I think what we're trying to communicate to you is that the north-south bar should be rooted to the base in some way to allow the east-west leg of the L to feel lighter, subservient, and to that primary.
You know, if you go to your first precedent book down a couple, I think it was that one.
Okay.
That big one right on the right side. I think that begins to speak to what's being said right now. There is a part of that tower that is kind of floating, but there's also a portion of that tower that anchors to the ground. And I think right now that is not occurring.
All right.
In the design of the tower that we're looking at. That's a great example right there of just kind of what I think needs to happen.
We've said we've liked that image a lot since the beginning. That was the precedent that I think we embraced as a diagram, right? I mean, it has to ground itself in some way, and it's still not doing that. I like your comments, David. I agree with what you're saying. I like the glass maybe floating, but the body of the building has to somehow not float as well. Can't all float.
Alice.
Well,
I want to make sure that Praj and Showjoy get to weigh in their first time before we keep going on this. So.
Sure. I wonder if it's the rendering too. The SketchUp model doesn't have all this, columns and landscape. It doesn't look as appealing as this present image. I don't really mind how it's cantilevered now. I think by adding additional finesse to the facade or additional, design, and by adding landscapes too, I think the design can achieve to this level of aesthetic. I really like the step back design too in this iteration. It's really clever in my view. Another comment is I still haven't seen the ground floor landscape or streetscape design yet. I don't know what the status of that, or if the applicant is going to submit it in the site plan, or do we have a direction because this is built on existing mall? Do we need to really conform to the downtown Boulevard streetscape standard? So these are my comments.
Or we would be looking for the detail of that at site plan.
It's site plan, yes, and this is still, that's not yet at that level, but we will have to get there eventually.
We do have in the latest submission that we did on the 26th, I think it was. Yes, exactly. An indication of what we were planning to do, which is essentially replacement of pavers at grade at the residential entry. To
Sounds good.
demarcate the new residential component that we are adding to this project.
I think we'll
So
come
this
back.
will, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So this will come back in site plan in more details, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
But I
We'll
just
talk
want, yeah,
about
we'll come back and I think we'll defer a conversation on that so we can focus on the building massing for today, but we will have to come back to that during site plan. Praj, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I actually really like that it's floating. It's kooky. That whole mall is kooky. So for me, I think it's a little bit whimsical, and walking around it, I actually think it really could be a great kind of a more modern look to that corner. Also, I think I want to kind of echo Shauja's comment about, I mean, at this level of like this third submission, I feel like, and thanks to the applicants, I think they have responded to a lot of the comments about massing and, like trying to have some individuality from the mall, but as well as trying to speak with what's there. And I think I think great strides have been made on the massing and the way it looks off of Colesville and how it comes down the alley. And so for me, the facade play as we go, I think after this stage, the more of like the skin treatment and what else that can be done to maybe respond to some of the concerns of the other DAP members could talk to those concerns. So I personally, I think I was actually going to ask you is like, at this stage, I know we look at, right, like where they are and then what's our next comment. So for me personally, I think at this stage, I'm totally okay with this submission package, and of course have comments about that. These are the big comments about, like this whole the massing and the facade treatment, the design coming all together. But I personally like it.
To remind everybody, I guess, just to speak to what Praj just said, our goal today is to decide whether we have to see this again at this stage or whether we feel comfortable saying, okay, we're good, we can see it again at site plan. That's the question. And this is the third time we're looking at it during sketch. And they have started the submission process for that. So I think that's the question, just to focus everybody on the question at hand, right? There's lots, we will see it again during site plan. The question is whether we're ready today, but by the time we're, in the next 20 minutes, we have to talk about this, to say, move ahead, and we'll see you guys again at site. And as we've done with other projects, as a reminder, we can say, when you come back at site, we would like to see these lists of things. Like that's another, there is a inherent advanced level of detail that comes with site plan, but also the DAP can ask for whatever they'd like to see, to help advance some of the things we're talking about. So just bring that out there as a reminder. Thank you, Prash, for sort of asking that.
And we do appear in front of the planning board at the public hearing in 4 weeks.
First, for our sketch plan.
Right. For the sketch plan, yes.
Yet another comment on top of something.
Well, I do. I just want to go back to the corner of Fenton and Colesville, because I think that's the piece that Bill was commenting on. And I wanted to clarify a couple of things that he was saying. I think that, as David mentioned, there's a number of ways to address like the connection to the ground. We have a lot of challenges here because of the structure. But I think because you're remote, I drew can I sketch things and show them? Just what I think Bill was sort of talking about was.
Are you in the meeting?
I'm not in the meeting. But you're sharing the screen, right?
Maybe you can see, I just kind of sketched, I'm not as adroit at digital as you are, Alice. So I do things with just a pen.
That's what she did.
Mine was just a digital pen, Bill, just a digital pen. But it might be the same thing that we drew, because it's thinning out the tower, going to Fenton, using that as your cantilever, and then pulling off of pulling the cantilever lever off from floating over that entrance to the
Can
mall.
you take a
It's
screenshot?
like
and then
this.
Email it to me and then I can.
Yeah.
Can you see my sketch?
Oh, I don't know. Can I airdrop it to you? I don't know if I
something.
have internet.
Yeah, there it is. See, if you bring back the corner and create another, I mean, if you're creating appendages, and we're okay with that.
Drawing.
What?
Your minds are alike.
Plan, you did it in 3D. We're on the same page.
Awesome, Alice, I know I like you. But that's how you make the corner without getting all wonky. I don't know about wonky buildings. I'm a little concerned about wonky buildings, and look, I'm not a structural engineer. I know I could fix that slanted face, but I'm not going to go any further on that one. But that's how you'd solve that problem, is maybe, have that, as David was saying, a building has a body and it has appendages, arms, and the arms may be lighter than the body. So that may come in the next iteration with massing, because you're articulating it the same way in your SketchUp model, which is always a problem.
I think one of the other things that I appreciated in the new presentation was it appears, I mean, I think you said that the roof amenity space, you're trying to focus it towards Colesville rather than the other direction. I think that's a great move. I also think that then you step it down going, I guess, to the east as another move. I think that is a very good move, because I think from looking at this tower, and maybe it goes a little bit to, I think what David says too, about the north-south being dominant, is that when you are going to see this tower basically from anywhere from the south, so from the metro station, anywhere, Ellsworth, anywhere around there, you're going to see it from the south. It's going to be a very, very prominent view. If that tower can somehow step down in profile, I think it will help that view tremendously and how it meets the sky. And I think what you're suggesting, I think, begins to do that. So I think that's a very good move as well.
Say step down the tower, you're talking about the eastern.
Yes.
Eastern face,
Yes.
projecting at.
So that when you're looking from the south, you're looking at, you're looking at the amenity, which is kind of an iconic piece at the top. And then it begins to step down towards, the rest of the city and towards the Fenton neighborhood. I think that's a good move.
So east of the core along the alley, it steps
down a little bit. And I think that's what
Right.
they're proposing.
Yeah, that's good. Because that goes all the way up, right?
Yeah. And to have some relief on that southern elevation so that you're getting kind of you're getting more movement up and down, where on the north-south elevation, you have pretty much, more of a solid kind of a mass that you see at the top as well. I think that's, and I think that's what you're doing. I think that's a great move. Yeah, the one thing with that perspective right there, I just think something needs to bring it, attach it to the ground. That's the one thing that's missing.
Yeah, to the architecture team, could you bring the entry mass that's vertical 2 floors higher
That's what Alice
and
said.
actually connect it? Yeah, there you go. That's Alice's. That's good. And actually connect it.
So Bill, you're
In some-
asking about the entrance piece on Colesville.
Yes, yeah.
Up. Essentially, it would have to be a screen though, right? Because of the structure.
Yeah.
It could be. It could be, and then you could fill it in with some lightweight material. I mean, it doesn't have to weigh a lot. It just has to make a connection, and then maybe that glass base sits on top, and maybe you don't have to make it angled. You could make it just a small relief that goes up. Maybe that's the way to do it. And then you would have a better visual connection of vertical planes, that may help.
What?
Because you broke it.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Bill. Go ahead,
I
Bill.
say you've broke it at the same height as the existing mall, so it doesn't really accomplish that connection. It's just an element on the streetscape. See what I'm saying? So maybe you have a little extra load that you could put on those columns and get another 2 floors of a screen or something, as Alice suggests. It doesn't have to be a big solid piece, but some kind of connection. That's all.
Just going to make a dangerous attempt to summarize, but I think what we're trying to communicate to you is that if we look at the north-south leg of the L, anything that you can do to emphasize that, strengthen that, give it more height, and connect that to the ground, the better I think the design is. And then that allows the east-west leg of the L that projects towards Fenton, to be subservient, less
Subservient.
dominant.
Yeah.
And that will help the massing. I think that's what you've done. What we're saying is we want to encourage you to move in that direction boldly and emphasize it as you progress with your design. That's what I hear us saying.
Yeah. I think that was good, David. Thanks.
Does the applicant team have any other sort of questions about the comments? So we need to clarify anything.
So, yeah,
Okay.
I appreciate the feedback.
So with that, what now the DAP members sort of have to agree on what the next step is. I think we were in agreement here in terms of comments, and I think that's great. And I think it's clear that everybody appreciates the work that the team did to advance the design. I think that's clear too. The question is whether the DAP thinks we have to see this yet again, or say, no, it's okay, we can allow them to proceed and we will see it again once they're into site plan and they're past sketch plan.
I would support that they move forward to site plan. And I base that decision on the fact that they've listened attentively to what we've said in the past, and they've made progress with the design. And I would anticipate them to continue that progress based upon our comments, and therefore I think what we're talking about is a strengthening and emphasis of a direction that they're already pursuing.
I would second that. Do I second?
Yeah, we should need to get sort of the.
I agree,
everyone needs to vote on
but
that.
I do think that some of the massing moves around that corner of Fenton and Colesville will be very important in our discussions moving forward. But I think that the responsiveness is clear as long as we can continue having that conversation, because I know there's always decision points as you're working through buildings, and we don't want you to move to a point where it's very expensive to go back and make edits. So I think there will continue to be comments around that corner, but I feel comfortable approving to move forward to sketch plan.
Site plan.
Site plan, sorry, from sketch plan to site plan. Yes, yes, sorry, we are, yes.
Submitting for site and then design will have
Sketch
advanced that
plan
one.
to site. yeah.
Okay, so that's 2 votes for letting them, we're seeing them again at site plan, letting them proceed. How's every Bill, Praj?
Yeah,
Same
I
here.
agree. Yeah, I agree with proceeding. I would also actually, as a kind of really say, like, just talking about back to also their efforts on the structure, right? I mean, they are limited to what is there structurally they can do and can do. So I wonder if it would be helpful on the site plan level just to have that. And maybe there will be, as part of like the design analysis, just to have that, like what we can and can't do, so that we don't get into the same discussion of, like, oh, how it should look like. I would maybe like to put that as a footnote to this on what is structurally feasible, if there is a report, if there is an analysis that like basis at that site plan level on why the design is, or the massing is the way it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add, I have seen structural engineers do some great things. In fact, there's a building at the corner of 19th and N Street where they built a truss at the roof level and they hung the corner. And they didn't have any surcharge on anything below. Now, that is Herculean in nature, and maybe there is a better way here, but I have great confidence in structural engineers to solve a lot of these things. If you say it's not possible, we'll have to trust you there.
And Joy, how did you?
Yes, I support that member's decision as well. I think this project's ready to move forward to next level, site plan level. I do have question about, so for the cantilever commons that that member have, the applicant will address that, correct, in the site plan?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna continue to, they'll come back
Okay.
at site plan, and then we have another opportunity to review the building once or more times, depending on how the DAB feels, so, yes.
Okay.
That means everyone is in agreement that,
Sure.
the next time the site plan, and of course, you'll get the notes from this meeting so that you can, use that as you move forward. But I think, yeah, well done.
Thank
Thank you.
And Tara, will you be at the May 16th public hearing in front of the board?
I will, so the regulatory team brings the item, right? Not me, but I'm sure, I will be there as long as it's not a day that I'm not here. I actually think I might be in a different program that day, but we'll see. I may or may not be there.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
So that number stay on because we have another.
That building at 19th and N is at DuPont Circle. That's where my firm is. Yeah,
That,
Yeah.
it's from where?
it's where my firm is located, in that building at DuPont
Oh, no
Circle.
kidding.
Yeah,
Oh,
wish I were kidding, but I'm not.
yeah. Well, that was very fascinating, and I know that it was hard to build because you had to build the columns up to the roof, and then the truss had to go in. But I've been involved in many buildings like that, which have some interesting solutions structurally.
Yeah, my office hangs over the big red cross.
The red piece, yes,
Red
yes.
piece that crosses that's what I hang over looking at the.
That was, I think,
You don't want
designed
to
by.
have that office if you have vertigo.
Love to come and see it sometime. I've been through the building. I think Con Pedersen Fox did the design for that.
Yeah, and it was built by JBG Smith.
JBG, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they did it.
wonderful.
But if you ever want to go in there, just let me know. And seriously, it's only 2 blocks from the DuPont Circle Metro Station, so.
Yeah.
If you ever want to walk in there, because of all the, you have to have with now, since 9/11, you have to have. But this is useful to you. to gain your support. I operate at all levels that are within the law. This is the thing that gets you in the building.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you.
Hi, how are you?
Jenny, which is a separate.
Robert's the deputy.
Being the next one.
Nice to meet Robert.
Robert's the deputy